I believe in your consultations, you looked at the issue of the protocols. Did you look at the Maputo Protocol? I hear as if the team at the back did not look at the Maputo Protocol. We can look at it again. Did you look at it? The Maputo Protocol? Did you look at any other human rights instrument? Sit down. Did you also look at scriptures and how they speak to women's rights? Yes. I hear people that have really advanced in this area. So now, having looked at that, I believe when you went back to do the practical, implement the action plans that you developed, and I speak like this knowing that the MENA region and the Anglophone region did not finish their consultations very like a long time ago. It is not so, it is quite recent. But the team from Anglophone, the team from SADC, the team from East Africa, but I believe also the team from Anglophone, no, Francophone, and the Anglophone team and the MENA team, there must also be actions that you have taken. So it will be very interesting for us to hear within the consultations that we'll be having, the discussions we'll be having, what are some of the challenges that you have witnessed when now you are trying to operationalize the things that you ran in the 7 weeks, and you are trying to implement that within your own institutions? What have been the challenges? But what have also been the achievements that you have made? Because there have been achievements. I have heard, as we always say here in Kenya, through the grapevine. Through the grapevine. I have not heard it from the horse's mouth, but through the grapevine. That means through rumors. But very dependable rumors that there is actually a church that has started sponsoring women to do theology so that they can be ordained as clergy. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, and I believe there are many such examples here. Yeah, I remember when I participated, I think, in the Anglophone consultations. We were discussing, or we were looking at the possibility of engaging those that do curriculum that trains the clergy, the curriculums that exist, so that they can include these subjects within those curriculums, because then you are able to train the clergy that is going to become ordained and who will be practicing already on issues of women's rights and gender justice. They can be aware from that particular point, because in some of the curriculums that have existed, those issues have not been there. I don't know the curriculums that you went through, but I believe in some of them, those issues have not been there, the contemporary issues that communities are facing. So it's an opportunity, and we really are very pleased to be together during this particular conference. We are calling upon you to share and also to learn from each other. It's an opportunity because the team that was SADC did the SADC consultations. The East African and Horn of Africa did the Eastern Horn of Africa consultations. But now we are with the team from the MENA region, we are with a team from the Francophone and Central Africa region, covering West Africa and Central Africa. We are with the team from the Anglophone consultation. That to me represents a lot of richness in terms of the experiences that are gathered together here, and which we can be able to utilize to actually have not only very operational or very enriching strategies, but also a very strong movement that promotes women's rights within Christianity and Christian denominations. So I want to assume that that is where we'll be heading. In the program, it is mentioned that Imke might say a few words. I'm not very sure whether that is the case. But Tina might just want to say hi also. And so that we can then be able to take back the mic to Nagwa to tell us what to do next. Welcome, Tina.
Okay, now? Yeah. Yeah, hi everybody. I'm not Imke. My colleague Imke is coming later. Sorry, apologies. Well, what can I say? Congratulations. Congratulations to Face to Action Network for having this workshop. I'm lacking words how to express how glad I am that we have this space and that we can finally meet in presence, and I feel very honored to be here and have this chance to listen to so many experiences with advancing women's rights and gender rights from all the different regions. And as you just mentioned before, we are right now in the 16 days of activism and very clear about how important this work is. And I'm part of a 16 days of activism group also, where we decided that it's very important to strengthen the fact that we need liberating ways of interpreting sacred texts. That there's a big need for theology from women, a theology that values women and women's agency. And at the same time, it's very important that to end oppression and exclusion and all other ways of violence is not something that women are responsible, or are women the ones who do this alone. It's a matter of all of us, always and everywhere. And so I'm looking forward to us sharing those journeys, and I'm convinced it's going to be a very inspiring milestone for all of us towards equality, respect, and inclusion in diversity for all. Thank you, and let's have a great workshop.
To enable us to be together the way we are, we have pooled some resources that have enabled this to happen. We have pulled resources from Faith Actors for Justice, from YW4A, yeah, and from another initiative we are calling GISRA. You'll be hearing more about it, but we have pulled those resources to be able to have this gathering, because it's you know, it costs quite a bit to bring people together, especially when they are coming from different nationalities, and to enable it to happen. But we are really very, very grateful for all the support that we have received, and we want to promise that, and I'm now promising on your behalf, to where the support has come from, that we'll make sure that we achieve results, isn't it? These consultations are not going to end with this particular conference. This, to us, is another of the stops that you make along the journey that you are going. But it is not the end of the journey, isn't it? Are we agreeing that this is not the end of the journey? This is just one of the stops along the journey, correct? Yes. Thank you so much. Nagwa, over to you.
Thank you, Nagwa. Thank you, Peter and Zanele. I think you have actually done us a huge favor, because you actually spoke to 2 sessions and we were trying to make up time. So you have helped us to make up time. Okay, I see a hand. Am I being stopped? No. Okay. Friends, we will proceed with our program. I'm looking for Michael. I don't know if he's in the room. Is Michael in the room? Okay, he was going to help me with the overhead projector. But whilst we are waiting for Michael, I have a question. Peter will need to come back. A couple of questions. Whilst we wait for Michael to come into the room and assist with what I asked him to assist with. And the question for you, Peter, is why is the issue of women's rights urgent right now?
That is the conference question. It sounds like a conference question, but I think we are at a time when media and reporting channels have made it very clear that the magnitude of violations of women's rights cannot be left to continue at the rate at which it is continuing. You know, challenges come, and when challenges come, they also open up, you know, hidden secrets. Huh? And COVID, I think, is one such challenge. When COVID came, there were many issues that arose. People were laid off. It's the case in Kenya. I believe it is the case from the countries where you come from. There was lockdown, so people were staying in houses. They were not moving out. And within that context, gender-based violence really went up. I believe it is the case in your own countries. But then, as that has happened, and remember the lockdown also affected schools. In many countries, schools were also closed. So as that has happened, the evidence and the cases that were being reported were really on the increase. And people could now see and relate to issues of gender-based violence in ways that they had not interacted with them before. So I would say that this is the moment we need to, since we have, in many countries now, there is evidence that people can use to do advocacy. This is the moment, because the evidence is there for us as the faith community also to stand up and be able to be counted among those that cannot tolerate this violence. Let me give you an example. I read in the news in Kenya, just I think yesterday or last night, in one of the reading newspapers called the Standard, in just one county, out of 16,000 school-going children, 16,000, they did more or less like mass testing, and 12,000 were found to be with STIs, sexually transmitted diseases, or infections. When you engage that kind of an issue within the faith community believes that and holds that it is not happening. But in one county, you can call it state in your own situations, you can call it district, you can call it any other name depending on the government, the way the government is subdivided. But you can imagine, out of 16,000, 12,000 being found to have STIs. What does that mean? That some things that we have not engaged with as the faith community, it is high time that we come out and also engage with them so that we can also be able to provide the necessary stewardship that we are called upon to do for the people that we are in charge of. So we cannot anymore sit back and watch.
Thank you very much for that. Zanele, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but maybe in a few words, you might want to speak to why it is important for us to have homegrown interventions. Why is it important for Africa to sit as Africa and talk about African challenges?
So why is it important now? If not now, then when? If we can't do it now to address the issues that women have been raising for years, then when should we do that? And it shouldn't be on our watch. We are ready. We are ready to act now. In terms of the homegrown solutions, you know, we've Africans, we are generally, and we are known for having a solution and being able to change situations and come up with new things. So we know how we adapt in our communities, we know how we build resilience amongst our communities, and we know how to act even when it's difficult. We always talk in Africa about solidarity, how we stand together. We always talk about how we build communities of trust and we're living in communities. So we need to go back to those communities. How do we rebuild those communities and actually make sure that there are protective spaces that we can respond to, that those same spaces can actually look at women as part of community and see their humanity? How do we make sure that those homegrown solutions speak to our cultures, speak to our contents, and speak to who we are? I hope I've answered you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Friends, they say that in order to move forward, it is also important to look back. And all of us in this room have gone through the 7 weeks of online training. Can we all see the screen? Maybe we can remove the black chair, please, Michael. Oh, and the other one. Thank you. All right, can we all see the screen? So we want to spend a few minutes, very few minutes, looking back on the journey that we have traveled. We want to take a walk down memory lane. The SADC region was the first to go through the online training, and it's been a while. And it could be that there are some aspects that you have forgotten. Hence the reason why we will walk down memory lane. Next slide, please, Michael. Week 1 was all about meeting and greeting and online conferencing. Is there anyone who learned something new about how to use Zoom during this session? Please show us by... Okay, we talked about Zoom and online etiquette. We talked about the importance of behaving right online. And then we swiftly went on to week 2. And in week 2, we spoke about who we are. Who am I? Who am I vis-a-vis women's rights? What do women's rights mean for me? How do I claim my rights as a woman? And how do I enable access to women to their rights if I'm a man? So we introspected. We looked at who we are. And then on that journey, we also had an experience with the daughters. The daughters of whom? Zelophehad. We had an experience with the daughters of Zelophehad. We then moved on. This was week 2. Week 3, please move on. Thank you. Peter has already alluded to this session. We looked at the instruments that are at our disposal. We looked at CEDAW and we looked at the Maputo Protocol. And we talked about how we, as practitioners in our different spaces, should use these instruments to grow our work, to further our work. Then we swiftly moved on. Where did we go, Michael? Week 4? Yes, go on. Thank you. We went on to week 4. This was quite an interesting session where we talked about faith as a stumbling block. When we talked about faith as a stumbling block, friends, we looked at scripture. We looked at what are known as terror texts and how these are used against women to force them to behave in certain ways, sometimes ways they don't want to. We looked at practices within our faith spaces that are used to keep women in line. Very quickly, we moved on to week 5. During week 5, we had what we called the fireside chat. Do you remember sitting at the feet of those who are already doing the work? Do you remember how much we learned from those organizations? We sat at their feet. And this week we will be sitting at each other's feet as we share around the table about what we are doing, how we are doing it, the challenges we might be facing, and so on and so forth. Week 6. Week 6, we looked at each other and we shook our heads and we said, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. And we asked each other the question, will we raise our hands and be amongst the laborers? And if so, how do we hold hands and harvest? So during this week, we began to critically look at our strengths and weaknesses, not just as individuals, but we looked at our organizations as well. And we started to propose what can be done differently. And we also then cautiously, for some of us, went back to our leadership to say, I've been part of this journey. And as part of this journey, this is what I'm thinking is where we are lacking. This is what I'm thinking is where we are strong. How about we do 1, 2, and 3? So we had started to consolidate in week 6. And then we went to week 7. This was our final week. Shakespeare always says that parting is such sweet sorrow. I remember how sad some of these last sessions were, having spent 7 weeks together. But we started to talk about organizational buy-in. Some of you came back with stories about how your organization was excited about the work going forward. Others, maybe not so much. But we had started to get organizational buy-in, and we had also started to consolidate. We had started to look at practical ways that we would move forward. Practical ways we would move forward. At this point, we had action points. We had identified areas where we wanted to see change. And we had started to think about how we would achieve this change. Next slide, please, Mike. Friends, nobody drives a car without rear view mirrors. We all need to look back in order to move forward. So we've looked back, we've walked the journey that all of us walked, and that journey has brought us to today, to this point in time. And these two journeys, friends, are not disconnected. These two journeys are the continuation of the same journey. And so as we proceed with this session, we are going to break into groups. And within those groups, we are going to look at some questions which I'm going to put on the screen for us. So we're going to sit together and, yes, maybe spend a few minutes looking back, thinking about what we talked about online, but also start looking forward to say, where are we going with this? What practical actions are we going to take? Next slide, please, Michael. The next one. So there on the board, friends, are the 3 questions that we are going to look into as groups. We are going to spend time between now and 1 o'clock talking about those 3 questions. We are going to put you into 7 groups, and within those groups, I will ask that you choose somebody who will be your note taker and who will report back to plenary. If it's possible that that be the same person, the person who takes the notes will reports back to plenary, because some of our hieroglyphics are very difficult to decipher. So our handwritings may be difficult for other people to read. So that will be our request. So we've got 3 questions there, friends, and we will break into 7 groups because we are a large group. I will ask for help because we've got breakout rooms. I'm sure the Faith to Action team will assist with that. Okay. Thank you, Karen. She's just asked me to read the questions out loud for the interpreters. So the questions read as follows. Share about some key women's rights issues or challenges in your country and discuss commonalities and differences between the countries, if any. That's the first one. The second one is, how has faith hampered or helped? So how has faith hampered or helped women's rights in your context? And the last one is, reflect on your lived experiences. Share your stories. Tell us your stories and propose strategies or opportunities for faith communities to enhance their support for women's rights. I hope they're all clear.